Are we enjoying the blind picks? Are we enjoying the counter picks? What's tickling our fancy, Skimmy?
Yeah, I'm kind of enjoying the fact that you can just be so free-flowing with your approach to how you want to go into this one. The fact that there are so many strong champions that doesn't really completely cement your idea by locking in that first pick as it would have done in the past, right? You're saying that you've locked in this, you're going for hard engage, or you're going for a poke comp, or it's all about split push. So I like the fact that you do have that amount of freedom, and hopefully it stays that same because it just keeps it interesting. Even if we are seeing a whole bunch of the same champions, it just keeps the idea of like, what are they actually aiming for? Quite cool.
Okay, well, talk to me about how Daystar and Chaz are going to have a bit of a matchup, because Chaz played exceptionally well yesterday, as expected. Daystar didn't get to show what he was capable of, so he's still got that element of surprise. Do you think Chaz is going to be able to deal with that?
I mean, Chaz is a veteran, I suppose. It's safe to say, of the Oceanic region, maybe not just the LCO, but he's been doing it for a while. He's been playing mid for a long time. We've seen him compete playing things like Zoe, playing things like Syndra. We've also seen him play Zed and slam that in international events, right? So you know that he has a depth of champion pool. You know that he will be able to understand things that are picked against him. And I think also, one of the things that makes Daystar so good is just like the aggressive mechanics that come from him. Like if you have a jungler ganking your lane, in your mind, you're expecting them to back away.
Yeah.
But there is a world that snap decision Daystar goes forwards and goes for the 1-for-1, and those types of things can catch you off guard. I don't think that necessarily trips Chaz up because he's been doing it for long enough.
Okay, now give me a little support stock take here. Who's the better roamer? Decoy, Benvi. We've loved what we've seen from Benvi so far, but Decoy's been sort of away for a while.
Yeah, Decoy's been away for a very long time. I believe he took some time off and did some coaching while he was on the Lalo, but comparing the two supports of this game is very, very interesting because Benvi, he's always been good on those enchanters, and we see how well he did with Limas on that Lucian and Nami, where they were creating that lead through bot lane. But I think Decoy, he has so much experience, and honestly, the current meta, it is more it depends on the jungle and how you link up with the jungle. Okay. Depending on if the mid lane wants to link up with the jungle, the support, it always revolves around jungle. And I think Poltron has a lot more presence on the map.
Fun fact as well about both of these supports. From my knowledge, Benvi's like a 4-role GM player, not just a support main, but like 4 roles. He's been a coach as well for multiple roles. I also recall being, I think it was like spawn in houses or Ayla in houses. The yearly in-houses that happen between pros. Yeah. Decoy was playing off-role in all of those as well very successfully. So I think you could safely say that of the supports that we have in our league, these two are the most comfortable with other roles, which means they know when other roles are weaker. Appy's a freak of nature.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Okay, he's probably the best at it, but yeah, I think that they're very aware of how other roles work in terms of timings, which means that their roaming can be even more impactful.
So where's the game going to be won and lost? Is it in that bot lane? Is it going to be the prey diff? Is it going to be Limas popping off? Or are we expecting the roamers, the junglers to have a bit more impact, try to win it through mid, try to let those tops pop off? What's going on? What's going down?
I'm curious to see what roles they do adopt. Like if they do just slam tanks in the jungle and actually allow like a Jax Fiora kind of matchup to take place topside, that'd be kind of exciting because I think they're both fairly akin to that. I mean, Liv would certainly like to entertain that if Zonas went that avenue. I wouldn't be surprised if it just became a bot lane matchup, really a case of seeing who could try and pop a Villian in the mid game. But I would like to see some angry gaming from Daystar. I think he's rank 1 right now on the OS leaderboard, so I think he's been popping off right now and he wants to showcase that, hey, there's a reason why I've come here.
Yep, and he's got that redemption angle to be bringing into today's games. Rusty, we've got someone who's sent a tweet at you, so we're going to quickly jump into From the Fans before we jump into the game. Who's this? Do you know him?
Big Rayzilla, mate. The sliding doors enthusiast.
Big Rayzilla, huh? My favourite thing about Season 13 is Rusty lol pestering me to play it mid-singed. Now, do you want to preach to the choir?
Yeah, this was just a tweet sent by Andrew Ray to the void of Twitter. Was like, what should I play this season, essentially? And he caught me. I just discovered mid-singed. I'd played 1 normal game of it, and then I jumped straight into ranked and played 6 in a row. Won 6 in a row. So when Andrew Ray posted that tweet, I was like, you're playing Singed mid, lock it in. Proved it to him, made him play it, and I think it's gone well for him. And I've been a firm advocate of Singed mid ever since because it promotes not winning lane, but winning game and making everyone really sad.
What rank is Ray?
I don't want to get it wrong, but I feel like the answer's bronze 3.
Oh, so I should be picking it up.
Bronze 3. Yes, you should be playing Singed.
It's a secret sauce to Elo.
You can start joke queuing.
Because it doesn't matter if you die. You're singed. It will be fine.
Oh, friends.
Woo,
friends. You don't play anything that's not... Howling Abyss.
Yeah, but
I
he
only
meant
play
me
ARAM.
and-
That is very true.
Me and A-Ray.
I love a good ARAM.
We could be.
You
But guess
could.
what? I've got good news. We've got a game on our hands. We've got Bliss up against Direwolves. Champ Select's ready.
Yes, it is. For the final game to close out week number 1, it's a chance to see what these two teams look like. It is the match of the week that we declared, really, from the tail end of the shenanigans last night. So a chance to really see how really close that divide is. We can clearly see that Pentanet and Chiefs have stamped their authority as the front runners, but how close is that divide, right? I guess that's what this game is looking to try and answer, and it's best of 1.
So Direwolves, it's very funny actually for the band so far, Elise away from Why Not. So one of the few players who you would be potentially seeing picking up that Elise champion, but it's also the Yasuo.
Yeah.
And if you know Why Not, you watched yesterday's games, Gragas is a very high priority, and if Daystar can play Yasuo, suddenly the combo's on, right? Suddenly that's something that they could consider picking as a 2v2. But not going to be allowed to have that one, obviously, as it's the bans that target it.
Certainly is, and Kitty was hot on the money. Reckoned that they would not ban away to Lucian, and that's been the case, exactly. First pick available to the Direwolves, so you would lock in the Nami, right? Deny them even wanting to look at that Lucian. The response is very quick, and they just go for a Caitlyn Wukong right out the gates.
Yeah, so one of the big strengths about blue side is being able to just 2-3 a bot lane if there's a priority blind pick first.
Very quick draft.
They've gone for the Nami first, so the Lucian was always going to be obvious, right? Which opens up the Caitlyn response. Caitlyn Lux is usually what you would see. However, the flexibility of this new season means that Lux isn't the default anymore. Lux is just an option. So Heimerdinger is also an option. Ashe is also an option. You're seeing Jins, if they've picked the Heimerdinger, right, as an option. So all of these things now start to exist. And this time around, Bliss have got Benvi on the Heimerdinger, with Limas playing that Caitlyn.
It's exciting to see because it has been banned a spareful amount of times in these opening matches for a chance to see really what the overall poke, harass, annoyance into the very meta and very prevalent Lucian Nami can deliver. The response now in the second rotation of bans is Team Bliss denying away the Sejuani for a hard engage to allow something like a Lucian Nami to then one-tap you or a Ryze to then find a flank. The response from them as a result was to try and make life a little bit easier for Chaz by removing Syndra.
I haven't mentioned this champion, but one other pick that I feel like is good but not really seen so far in competitive is the Zac jungle. It essentially fills the same role of the Sejuani, but doesn't have a reliance of like a melee character to combo with. Right?
Same build, right? You still got like the Radiant Virtue and all the rest, right?
Demonic Embrace, etc. I like the Maokai, like AP heavy, like DPS, but it's still tanky, right? Because you're a Zac. You've also got permanently like Anivia passive to keep you alive, a GA there, which is huge for early dives, early team fights. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some more Zac just floating the champion as a Sejuani's banned. Viego to go with that one, so they are trying to attack Poltron's champion pool here.
So they are, as well as Daystars, right? So those two meta carry responses to the likes of a Ryze have been removed away. Viego denied 2 for a carry aspect if Poltron were to entertain it. Corki currently being hovered. Now this is an interesting prospect of that, was to actually be locked in as to where we would see all this go in turn. But it would seem a little bit more stable if they were to see a matchup like we saw the other day where it was a Gnar into the Cassante to try and find your value from afar.
Yeah. Also, Vi, still a champion that's up and pickable for the jungle role for Poltron if he wants to, right? Caitlyn, champion that can be locked down. Heimerdinger can be targeted. Zonius, of course, is a possibility, but the Vi ultimate allows you to get through things like the Wukong Cyclone if you wanted to.
Ooh.
Nocturne actually going to be the champion that they lock in here. This makes things a little bit more delicate for anyone who gets planted in a lane isolated mid-game, right?
Yes.
Because the Nocturne ult, you know, historically Nocturne means you can't play a carry top because you just get killed constantly.
Yep.
But it also now means that if the Heimerdinger ever strays away from the Caitlyn, one of them is now dead. You know, that's a constant concern. And a clever and cute little pick in here last for Team Bliss makes the Nocturne ultimate a little bit less effective, because you can keep yourself alive very easily.
Certainly does, and also just really screams 13.1 patch notes that you were discussing, right? The buff to the Axiom arc, which would favour Nocturne because he really was the only champion building that. The tenacity change, as you say, the Lissandra slight tweaks here and there. Another fantastic champion that can absorb so much pressure. And it just means, okay, where really is this Nocturne going? You could say targeted CC, much like a Vi, but with extra range. A little bit squishier, though, as a result.
Yeah, it has... I feel like when you look at a Nocturne, you're looking at not only who are you ganking, but what are your lanes that you're ganking for, right? So bot lane being a Lucian Nami makes it very easy to also just be able to gank that lane because they've got enough damage that it doesn't matter to have, like, you know, CC guaranteed as a lockdown. they just kill someone and you're there to build lethality and one-hit them. Also, Bliss has got permanently squishy members here in the Caitlyn, so it could be a case of like a 10 and 10 Nocturne, but it's the Caitlyn that's 0-10 on the other side. You're like, it's worth it. I've done my job. It's up to the rest of the team to carry. So the beauty of Nocturne in that respect, right? If you're going to be an assassin, just pick them apart and just do your job.
Yeah, certainly is a big job to be asked of. And I think really for me, what screams the most about Direwolves is it has a lot of productivity. You've got a Ryze that wants to be active. You've got a Nocturne that also wants to do the same, right? So once level 6 is there, you've got to be absolutely terrified, figuratively and literally, right? Because we always talk about Nocturne, that first paranoia has to find its mark. If it does, you've then got Realm Warps. That lane is not only just being camped, it's going to go from bad to worse.
Yeah, and the ultimate hunter stacks and everything that come through, so much more frequency to be seen from it. I like this from Direwolves again. You just mentioned it, but the Ryze, the Nocturne, probably playing towards their side lanes. Gnar with Mega Gnar can be aggressive and play with very low HP trades with K'Sante. So it could be a case of going to top and bottom for Direwolves, not just playing towards their bottom lane.
Certainly could be, as we load into the Rift here for the final game to open up this festivities of Week 1. It's already blown on by 6 games. And
2 less than normal.
Well, that's certainly it. It does feel like a quick and short day, but I suppose also the fact that our games have been fairly quick in terms of a 25-minute affair. Whether or not this one will go any longer than that, if we are going to get any LCK barn burners.
I don't know if we've had a game go past. Is it like 26 minutes?
Yeah.
You know, like it's been insane how fast these games have been. So either way, we're back into the game now. Back onto the Rift. A couple of really important notes here as well is not just the Nocturne that we've been talking about extensively, but let's look at Team Bliss for a second. Wukong has so many options. Lissandra Wukong moving together is a very dangerous 2v2 as well. The crowd control layering that they have is immense. Heimerdinger also is one of the most annoying champions to lane against. And if you do watch how bottom lane starts, it's usually one turret in the middle bush, one turret in the frontmost bush in the far bottom corner if you're looking to keep them busy, or it's a turret in the back bush, right? And just annoying. Just makes them deal with the bushes at all times. Or you ignore the bush and then you lose out on poke and harass. And Caitlyn starts hitting you with these Qs for free, right? Peacemakers to the dome. So you start playing a different game of League of Legends down here. But usually the result of that is that the Heimerdinger 2v2 has the push advantage.
Yep.
And if they do, then he starts to play with the jungler that can invade. So a common strategy for a lot of teams right now competitively is like 2 camps into an invade or 3 camps into an invade at the enemy red buff if they start at the blue. So it comes as no surprise if that's what they wanted to do. And already Lissandra early priority and push to be seen here, if that was going to be Why Not strategy.
No doubt, and we'd have to keep our eyes firmly fixated as to where Why Not does decide to go. If anything were to amount, as Daycel's going to plant a nice wall here, which is going to spot out Poltron in just a second. As you already highlighted here in the bot lane, bush control going to be of paramount importance, obviously to enable Limes' Caitlyn passive, but also just the fact that it's going to be very hard if Praetor and Decoy miscalculate their trades. They're going to cop a lot of damage in return. So let's see how they can wrestle their way into this one. Why Not is making his way down to bot side, knowing that Poltron will be pathing towards this.
Yeah, knows that he's not at the Raptors, knows that he's not at the red, however, so by process of elimination, they should know that he's at Krugs and wait. That is a tragedy of timing, actually. He's going to see Why Not jump over the wall, so reveals information. Poltron, of course, knowing that Daystar veered towards the bottom side, Chaz would have called and pinged exactly where the ward went, even if they haven't seen it. Dodges Raptors, dodges Vision, and dodges a Why Not invade very nicely and hasn't even been seen. They'll know approximately where he is for sure, but up until now hasn't been spotted, so no pressure. And that's a level 6 jungler clearing happily.
That's all you want, right? You want that full clear as quickly as you can to get level 6 online and become that menace that we know Nocturne to be. I'm excited to see how this top lane matchup can fare, because from what we saw in the previous matchup, it was Gnar getting a slow lead to start things off with constant shove to keep K'Sante at bay and allow him to be unlocked in the map to try and, I suppose, also lay down vision to keep tabs as to where Why Not may be.
Deep ward there on the Krugs as well for Zonas. I like that. Of course, it opens avenues for ganks if they really wanted to, but I don't think that's something that is currently a concern with Nocturne pathing towards the top. Scuttlecrab to take that one for a bit of extra vision for him. Game's still fairly passive overall, but the Caitlyn Heimerdinger have pushed. It means Lucian Nami, for one of the very few times that we've seen it, not pushing, not having kill pressure, just trying to survive and farm their way through.
Do you prefer the Heimerdinger to the Lux? Because, you know, back in the day when we would see this as a very prevalent bot lane duo, the main staple was they would just shove and shove and they would get guaranteed 2 plates.
So I personally prefer Heimerdinger to Lux into the Lucian Nami matchup because when you play Lux into Lucian Nami, if you ever press Q and it misses, you die.
You just lose.
Right? They dashed forwards, they've got the Nami to lock you down. So like this, for example, the stun misses. What you still have is a turret to zone them away, utility to zone them away, rockets to throw out, and they actually create space, but the Lux's E isn't as effective at doing so. But you don't have a shield for your ADC, that's why I prefer it personally. I'm not an ADC, I'm a support.
Support brain certainly turned on. You did see there, Predator get a little bit aggressive there in the mid wave, or rather on the wave, to try and push it. Copped a fair trade, and that was enough for Decoy to stand the alarm and press the summon a heal.
This is a big forced reset actually by Bliss. I'm surprised that they are going to choose to commit to that one. Limas even walks further away. Wonder if they were afraid of diving or if Limas was moving out of vision to fake a base, because either way, the wave was pushed too fast by Predator and Decoy to be able to reset there and not miss a wave. And we continue our clear scheme. Feels like junglers, above all else, are going to be looking for level 6, but that also means that mid laners, top laners, they will be hitting that already.
Certainly will do. Poltron with nothing to do right now, waiting for those camps to respawn. Now he does have those Crocs to return to, so his ability to try and play that Pixel Bush in the bottom river has now fizzled out, as it will be now Wynot's turn to stand guard.
Sweeper will see Chaz if he walks through here, so he gets stunned, you would expect. But Chaz knows they're in the bush. And the dance continues, but Rockets fired their mark. Cheeky stuff here from both teams, testing the water. Not doing anything crazy, no team play yet. Just supports and junglers moving around near the middle lane.
I don't think either side feels threatened enough that they need to make something happen before level 6 comes online across the board, so I'm quite excited to see what will happen once we do reach that point in time. As it stands, it's all about farming, all about finding those small windows in which you can try and abuse an advantage, a level lead here, or perhaps even that ultimate advantage instead. You can see the Dare fan vote. The majority do believe that Direwolves should have the ability to take this one out. We'll get to see whether or not that is the case. Nice little smite there to steal it away.
I think that was 20 HP at most on that smite there from Wynot. A little bit too early, unfortunately, for him. Drake going to be started on Vision, however, as Poltron goes back to base. I wanted to briefly touch on the ward that was placed by Liv top as well. It's one thing you have to consider when you're versing a Nocturne is where you're going to place your wards. He places it in the river in a position that would stop a gank through the river itself. That's not going to stop a Nocturne ulting from the Tri-Bush behind Zoranus, right? There are so many angles that he would still have there.
Yep.
But the question is, would he use it top lane? Is that not just a ward to see perhaps the Rise, because the level 1 Rise ultimate is quite short? To be seen. However, with that in mind, the reason I bring this up is Poltron is 1 camp away from level 6. In solo queue, Poltron takes that blue buff instead of Chaz.
He certainly does.
And it means that in reality, he could, as the wave bounces in top lane.
Oh! Well, that was nice there by Lived. Zoranus using his ult to actually just shove the wave in. Gets punished for it. Has to expend the flash as a result of being, you would say, greedy in a way.
For sure. Good little punish there from Liv, 100%. He's going to go back to base. Is Zoranus with a flash missing. This bot lane's still so volatile. And it really feels like we're waiting for the moment. You know, what is that moment? No one's rotating with commitment towards the Rift Herald just yet. Drake's gone. That was taken nicely by Bliss.
The one thing I will say that I like about Heimerdinger is his flexibility to empower one of his basic abilities, right? So depending on the situation, however, you know, the Lucian army chooses to get aggressive, you have the empowered turret or the multiple repeating bomb bounces. So
99% of the time in a team fight, you'd be looking to augment the grenade.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of utility for sure. If someone tries to gank and it's through lane, you put down an empowered turret and just walk away. That turret is imposing.
Yeah, it is.
To say the least. It's good to have lethal if your ADC's already died, but they've got their enemy AD low, right? You have the rockets, but normally you will just see the grenade thrown. Ticking over to 6, however, is Predator and Decoy. Nocturne in the area with the ultimate himself can turn the lights off.
It's good timing.
Summoners there for Team Bliss, both of them, but look at Benvi's position, so forwards. And Wynot's here. This is a 3v3 at least.
And it's going to be a health advantage that favors Team Bliss to start off with.
Daystar coming down. spotted on a ward.
Yeah.
I think just too much health missing from Praedyth and Decoy. It was obvious if it was going to be a bait.
Would have been the biggest overcommit if they'd had to try and start that one up. Don't really favour that one, but Poltron's biding his time, being very patient here.
I feel like he has no choice now that he's aware that the enemy was rotating. You see Daystar roam in aggressively like that into your jungle, you assume Wynot's nearby even if you haven't seen him.
For sure.
Yeah, a lot of respect paid, but that does mean no early ultimates to be used. Lived feeling confident to just 1v1. And a Rise and a Nocturne haven't found the ability to roam yet. But an Ignite, Lissandra hasn't found a kill.
Yeah, he's running the Unsealed Spellbook, so can certainly cycle through those opportunities based on what is presented to them, but the Ignite would really scream that they want to fight. Next Dragon is, well, it's another 2 minutes away, so plenty of time. No doubt still hunting for that one lane gank.
How different this has been to our previous games of the LCO. If the average game time's 26 minutes, we're 10.5 in without a kill.
Yeah.
This has drastically changed to the norm that we have seen. And I guess the question has to be brought up on who does that favor. And I think it's, generally speaking, quite an interesting draft to bring that up. Caitlyn has a very strong early game presence, very strong mid-game item spike presence as well with the straight AD build, if you were to start threatening turrets. But Illusion and Nami, when planted in mid lane, are just as dangerous. So they're kind of spiking at similar times. However, I think once you get to 3 items plus, I would personally rather be a Caitlyn.
Yeah.
Just because you can play at a longer range, be safer, has a decent team comp to protect him as well. And I think in general, the team fight of Team Bliss is quite nice. Cassante able to keep Gnar out of the play if things go perfectly right, and Mega Gnar doesn't hit because you get to use all-out mode. And Wukong and Lissandra are so dangerous for assassinating, but that's assuming you get to those team fights on an equal playing field. Chaz and Poltron, you would expect, get to those fights faster and influence that state.
That certainly would be what their ultimates would suggest, and whilst their presence in the bot half of the map doesn't actually net them a kill, or a gank at least, it is enough to force Team Bliss to be defensive. That's turret plates going the way of the bot duo.
Very cheeky from Benby with an INTZ logo there.
It certainly is, where Decoy spent a bit of time. Then we go with the culling. Wanting to try and answer back with the ace in the hole just being used on cooldown to try and keep Praedyth at bay, but that's another wave crashing, that's another plate going, that's a paranoia being used. The wave to try and cycle it up is only going to hit one, no, but one at all, because he actually flashes away. First blood here, found by Praedyth. Turret aggro is going to commit to Poltron and will fall on down to his opposite jungler. And that might be all she wrote. And it's going to be Daystar just left to his own device in mid lane, just being the sole victor.
Going to collapse a couple of plates here as well. A bit of extra money into the pockets for sure. The scaling Rise pick doesn't find too much from it. Why not, while flashing for that play, kept his ult? So you can see how aggressively he's playing Lissandra, hunting Daystar. Could flash ult there. The Ignite's there. So running the risk was Chaz. But with a Merc Treads rush, Rise, he's fast enough to get away and does have enough tenacity to perhaps survive. Either way, it's back to the objective for them. And the dive, I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't quite enough.
No. Not enough to create daylight just yet.
That's actually sad. One auto away from the turret plate means you don't want to base, because a stray, if you cop a stray from a range minion, you lose that money. Look at him.
He's going to push in one extra wave. He does get that turret play. He will go back to base and try and match the timing of Chaz as well, who's now just picked up a Rod of Ages, so his mythic item online. Instant teleport back to lane. And then there's now 2 dragons back-to-back picked up here by Bliss.
So far, so good for them in terms of how they've been playing the game out. They've weathered the first dive of the Nocturne. Their objective control has been quite good. Herald to be summoned as well by Wynot. It's not just 2-0 for Drakes, and it's not even a trade for Herald. It's, geez, going again top.
We're on once again. Zonis is in so much trouble. He's already burnt the flash. He's being dragged on in. That's an empowered Cassante. Keen for blood. Oh, he's just missed the knockback. He's running. And he tried to utilize the Gnar's movement speed, but it just wasn't enough.
I mean, all-out mode Cassante, the footwork is still going to be the maximum distance, so he's able to keep close, find his mark. Benby hits the stun.
We're on. That's a 2-man Cyclone knocking them all up. Benby the one to try and find that kill. It's a 1-for-1 so far, making it a 2-for-1 as they answer back with conviction. The burst from the side of the Direwolves trio, just a little bit too good. They're going to cut off the retreat. Where you going? Flashing into the Dragon Pit, are you? A fadeaway Q. But it can't catch Daystar.
The flash is there from Praedyth and Decoy if they wanted to follow through, but it was just Chaz inside that Realm Warp. Didn't want to go over the wall, and a Caitlyn was nearby. Some traps were being placed inside the Drake pit. Again, when all is said and done, it still feels like an even trade, but we have to talk about the fact that Praedyth is now 2-0-1, finding himself some CS leads, and starting to actually run away with this just a little bit in that bot lane 2v2.
You talked about how evenly these two AD carries could look to try an item spike. Well, if you give the Lucian that slight advantage and you've got the Nami to complement with it, that might be all it takes to try and give them some form of control once they do go for those lane swaps.
Caitlyn wants to stay ahead. You know, even is okay as long as you're highly farming. We'll see how this plays out. Why not does face check the bush. As far as Direwolves could tell, it was blind. It was just a Wukong, but Benvi's there, hits the stun, right? But then unfortunately for Team Bliss, Daystar not there at the same time. Rai's going to be there faster. The response is there because they know where Why Not is. He's shown himself summoning a Herald, right? They had all the time in the world to make that play. It was just a nice little pick on the uptake there by Bliss to make it more equal.
Still an incredibly even game. The only difference really being that Bliss have two dragons to themselves to play around for a potential very early soul point. Lived has found his moments in the top lane here. And he certainly 100%. Caused Zoranis a few headaches, and he's found himself a cheeky solo kill as a result of that good effort.
He's been doing very well for himself top lane. This is a fairly volatile lane. We spoke about this yesterday, but specifically Mini-Gnar form has such minimal resistances, and Cassante as a champion gets more damage when ulting, sacrifices resistance to himself, but is able to lock you down, right? It becomes so difficult to play. When the tank becomes a bruiser suddenly and can time it around you losing your resistances, the game becomes more difficult. Still for me though, Skimmy, the biggest thing is that Daystar is non-existent.
Oh no, Decoy could be stuck in a rock and a hard place, but actually says it's a bait, it's a trap, you're actually in trouble. Great bubble to lock in place, why not? So he can't even disengage Ray Flash, but he's dead. That was a wasted summoner. And what looked like a trap being set by Team Bliss was pounced upon by the Direwolves.
Yeah, the river's just being controlled by Direwolves and their extra mobility. You know, the fact that Praedyth is stronger and Lucian Nami is so powerful right now, with a Caitlyn, you'd rather post up. You'd rather be able to set up in an area and bring them towards you, but they're getting picked, they're getting caught off before they can do things like that. And those set plays are going awry, and Daystar's been handled by Chaz. He's getting bodied out by Chaz. Really is showing signs of being, yes, a mechanical player, but when under the pump, when the pressure's there, he's not been able to find opportunities. It's not about decisions, it's opportunities, and he's got none.
We need to certainly find some, because another opportunity presents themselves here in another 40 seconds, a potential soul point to look at. With an Ocean Rift on the map. And now we see a double buff, near 2-item Lucian, posted up in mid lane, and saying that we've got the river control and it's going to stay that way.
Running the standard build at the moment as well, which is the serrated Dirk straight into a rapid fire cannon opposed to completing a collector or anything like that. So it does mean that when he puts himself in mid, 1.5 items is even stronger. The culling comes through, so much damage comes out of this Lucian. And it's the point in the game where most opposing mids just lose. This is where we've seen solo kills or 2v2 kills consistently that just completely blow open the game. You think you're in an even state, suddenly Lucian says, not anymore, right? But first and foremost, Team Bliss, if they've got anything going for them, it has been objective control. They're here for the Drake.
Well, the lights go out and 3 members get knocked up by the tidal wave. Direwolves really want to get this one. They got the Realm Weavers to get out of jail for E-Card. It is going to be a fantastic smite there by Pulcher, and the lights come back on. The fight is inevitable. It's going to have to happen. Zoranis is not even a part of this one. He says, we're not taking anything in this. We'll get the objective and we'll get out.
Lived MVP in that situation as well. Walks in, stops the Realm Walk from coming through by putting down some crowd control. Make sure that they get something for that trade. Direwolves going to try and clear out this mid-wave, bring Team Bliss back to the area, but keep them moving second to the location. Drake goes their way because they're able to get in there fast enough and aggressively enough. Bliss couldn't get there in time other than the kills.
Well, certainly it's a good soul point to deny. And that could have been a snowballing condition to try and break the divide in terms of a very close affair here between these two evenly matched teams. But still, you're looking at this Lucian and saying, who is going to stop him? Right now, isolated in a 1v1. Nocturne with no ultimate, having just burned it before. Ooh. He's not here to assist his AD carry. That's a Gale Force. And that's a TP in. Can they turn this one around? Zonis in mini, no Mega Charge whatsoever. The rest of the team here to back him up, trying to cut them off from the flank. Turret very low, flash roll to get it. A second potentially, maybe. Self-cast of the ult there by Daystar. That is the Frozen Tomb, that is the Icy Death! As he jumps in to claim his ultimate reward. Praetor is dead. The bounty has been removed. And we're into a pause.
Benvi comes in and tries to help in that skirmish, but finds himself a Chaz, just waiting and ready. The 2 items done for that rise. A tragic moment to have a pause, to find a pause, but as far as we can tell from that fight, things were looking very good for Direwolves from the get-go. And Zoran is teleporting in with Mininar, 0 rage, doesn't care. He's going, he's going to dive the turret, doesn't care.
He's a man with a plan, I'll tell you that much.
He knows what he's about. Finds his opportunity, finds his moment. Wynot was playing around Daystar. They're really trying to get their mid laner back into the game, find some momentum, get into the swing of things. But I think the most outstanding factor so far has been Benvi and Wynot not really operating on the same page and Daystar not operating with them. And so they're getting caught without having their setup there. They're just being picked. You know, the Nocturne ult, the Rise ult's catching them by surprise, but how are they hitting those ults? Well, either they're in river, so they're in neutral ground in the wrong timing or wrong positions, or they're walking over vision they haven't been able to clear together. And there's been no Lucian with them, right? Similar to, so on day 1, Lemus was the Lucian that they were able to use as like a totem pole for the team in mid.
Yep.
He's a point of strength, and then they go elsewhere. But the Caitlyn hasn't been able to have any influence realistically at all. So they've been able to find just the auxiliary members and pick them apart, make sure the Caitlyn can't do anything by killing everything around him.
Yeah, you certainly do want to try and leverage the range advantage that a Caitlyn possesses, especially if you are wrangling control of that mid-wave prio, but hasn't really been as easy as that, and I suppose really it is a rare opportunity for Daystar to say, well, at least I did get that shutdown. That is what I need. An opportunity for us to try and turn things around if it is going to be a slow, drawn-out game. I don't feel like this is a game that's going to be done by the 25-minute mark by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, it doesn't feel that way. At the very least, the way it's been going so far is we will be getting to 2 or 3 items on all of the carries this time around. Nothing's been blown completely out of the water. Bliss still having a lot of early Drakes as an earlier win condition, but Direwolves getting that last one back keeps them well and truly in the game. And we were looking at potentially a Rift Herald, I think, prior to that fight happening. It was like 19 minutes and 11 seconds on the clock when they started fighting in top lane. But it was Direwolves that were looking for a Rift Herald at the exact same time, which is why they were in the area. I don't know if we'll see that one being able to be done, given that we're a little bit too close to 20 minutes now as the dust settled. We'll see. But that does bring about the question of Baron, Skimmy.
It certainly does. And who do you think are favours? Because I feel like there are definitely tools available to them that would allow them to set up and, you know, almost just pitch a tent and say, this is our squad and this is our territory to claim. But, I mean, first for me, it would always be a Lissandra. You see it time and time again. How many times has Faker done it with the Unsealed Spellbook? Jumps in with a smite and says, yoink.
Yeah, true. Actually, how much does the smite do now with the changes? Is it just going to be like a flat 6?
That's a good question. I actually haven't tried it since the preseason.
Because you can't evolve it.
Would it just be the base 650?
Because it was the base one with the...
You'd imagine so.
With the old one as well.
Would seem a little bit ridiculous if it was empowered.
Well, yeah, of course. Plus, then you could use it aggressively on an enemy, and you haven't earned that right.
True.
So
no treats.
Not going to get that one. But yes, that's certainly possible if Daystar becomes Faker. Which, I don't know if we'll be seeing that one. What we will be seeing, though, is Bliss feeling like they're on the back foot. The momentum definitely belonging to Direwolves. And similar to what was brought up when Kitty was watching Pensinet the other day, calling Schönfire like the conductor of the orchestra, so to speak, or the fact that it was like a really nice flow of movement. It feels like Chaz is having a similar effect for the Direwolves squad. He's always in the right place, always at the right time. Poltron obviously very aware, tries to play more cerebrally and think more about what he's doing instead of just mechanically acting. But it's Chaz who seems to always be there first, always be there faster. And that is a big influential factor in how these team fights go. Daystar, anytime he gets there first, the fight's fizzled. Anytime Chaz has been there, it's been successful.
And that's all you can ask for a player that's forced to be mobile and a champion that warrants it. Just like Rise. So that's all you need. Quick update from our end. Slight delay at the moment. One of the players experiencing an issue, and they are just rebooting their PC at the moment, so we shouldn't be too far away before we can jump into the final action of the day.
I wonder if anyone's worked out who it is, because obviously you can't see their camera.
True.
Any Nurges.
Yeah, anybody studying the VOD.
CSI Miami, who was it? Doesn't matter, we're back.
We certainly are back.
There goes Shelly. Goodbye. Squatters' rights revoked.
So no Herald, but you get yourself a turret instead. That was the after effects of that bit of action in the top lane there.
And the man on your screen, Skimmy, is probably the one thing that we should really be highlighting. Liv has been playing fantastically. Yes, Zoranus teleported top lane and was able to find some impact. But the Cassante has been dancing around Zoranus, was getting some solo kills, breaks the turret bot lane, and he's doing so much work for keeping Bliss in this game. Daystar is 3-1, all things considered, when that top fight settles. And the issue is for Why Not here is he's felt so squishy. Everything's one-hitting him. 1 and 3 on this Wukong. Still building towards damage, and Benvi as well, right? 1 and 3. Not going towards the Rylai's rush. He's going towards the Leandri's, it feels like this time.
Certainly is. Certainly is. Wants to be an absolute menace with harass. 2 item spikes can be felt across the board here. 2 items there for the Rise. That the same for Daystar. Both certainly feeling at a very strong impasse. And I mean, you look at the Lucian Nami, that's all you need, right? You've got the bread and butter, the rapid fire cannon Gale Force, and the Ardent Sensor too.
Hunting. Looks like he's ready to go. Heimerdinger shows though. Waiting for Daystar to get here. It feels like they know there's no vision in this area, at least in the bush that you can see the vision ward ping on. They know they've cleared that one out. So Daystar places an advanced control. And what they don't know is that ward's spotting him right now. They know he's going to leave the area. Direwolves as they ebb and flow. They move around the map. They were looking for Daystar returning to top lane because he showed on vision, and Praedyth about to walk mid lane. So they've moved the whole map up, and now's a chance for them to be aggressive.
What is the response here? Liv goes back to base, leaving bot wave as it stands. Whether or not he goes in to join the rest of his team in mid, anticipating a big fight about to break out. A minute 30 for the next potential soul point for Bliss to acquire, or for Direwolves to deny.
Is Decoy bait, or is he actually out of position is the question. It's very clearly bait for us. Caitlyn Ultimate going to come through just to keep him humble, but he's a Nami that can heal himself, so it's rather pointless. Why not
spell shield? Fantastic spell shield there from Poltron, baiting out the Cyclone. Does absolutely nothing. Realmwalk comes in. Cyclone clone is going to fall on down low. We can see the team fight damage so far, and it's a Heimerdinger against the world.
Still looking for the harass, still looking to poke, right? And the plan here, you can see, is very clearly for a pick for Bliss. But for Direwolves, Zoranus has been hovering. They've been protecting each other. They've been looking to really find an opportunity to collapse on a mistake. They were able to get the ultimate out of Why Not, but beyond that, it didn't feel like too much was used, just a couple of ults here and there. But Nocturne, Gnar able to hold theirs.
Yeah.
Not a real waste just yet, as unfortunately we are back into another pause.
Just felt like both junglers testing the waters, seeing what would be burnt, what would be used, and you know, how keen either side was to try and force a fight, really, as to is now the right time, or are we much more interested in seeing, okay, what is your game plan? Do you want to start up a Baron before we entertain the idea of looking to try and counteract that? So I think really it's just going to become a constant shove in the mid wave once again. Let the jostling begin, the ping pong, if you will.
Just not wanting to overcommit is the feeling, like a tentative nature of this game. Because again, we're playing for group stages, which will be best of threes after this, but it's a single round robin, so you're not going to see Direwolves versus Bliss again until those group stages, if they're in the same groups.
Yeah, absolutely. So these games do matter. It's not a case of we'll get them next time. You certainly do need to be on your A game from the very get-go, and so far this has been a fairly even matchup. I've really enjoyed this one to close out the week.
We haven't mentioned it yet, but perfect positioning on the Bliss logo behind Daystar here. When it was lit up yesterday, I was like, that's badass. He's got like a pink halo.
That'll be his anime villain arc, no doubt. If we get the late night bangers, the lights go out. That's when you start to play the best, right? When your eyesight, you know, you don't care about your eyesight anymore. The lights go out. You're saying, I'm on some demon hours now.
When you're sacrificing your vision.
Yeah.
You're just losing numbers from the 2020.
2 a.m. degen solo queue. You're like, okay, it's too bright outside. It's too bright with this on. I'm here to play games. I don't care about sleep.
Those are the best and worst nights. And it happens more often than I care to admit.
Yeah, it certainly does. Doesn't change the older you get, that's for sure.
No, no. No, it does not.
It does not.
Can confirm. Still up at 4 a.m. saying last win.
You have to, though.
Or first win.
It is so annoying laying in bed saying, I'm a bit of a loser, eh? Lost that game. What am I doing with my life? What do I play?
Well, there's two calls. It's become a meta. There is LW and LG. And anyone who says LG is weak,
Okay.
anyone who says LW is a Giga Chad.
You have to be.
Because one of them is last game, one of them is last win.
It always has to be a last win. It
Has
just
to be.
feels so good. I mean, you had the best night's sleep when you just go to bed and say, I smurfed. We got it done.
Well, you don't want to go to bed a loser. Because then
Absolutely.
you're just angry and you stare at the ceiling and you're like, why?
Why was I up till 4 a.m.? What am I doing with my
Why
life?
am I doing all of this? Why am I in bed?
Well, hopefully not too far away before we can jump back into this one. Whether or not it's the same issue, I'm not too sure at this stage. But in terms of what we have seen, this is Noda, a game that is really teetering on the edge of one major explosive fight. Whether it's the Baron, or whether we are slowly working our way towards that climax of a massive soul point dragon equation. Even an Elder. I mean, Elder's not even been in consideration so far. The game's just been too quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this has been the least shutout game we've had, so we are going more of the distance than we have before, but we're not close to a point where we're going to be looking at something like the Elder as they've been sharing objectives. We've also seen a 20-minute Baron in pretty much every single game. Not so much in this one because we haven't had the team fight that causes the objective, which is what has been happening in every single LCO game up to this point.
Yeah.
And it does still feel like both teams are looking for that team fight, not the objective. A couple of things as well here is that Poltron's gone for the tankier build as we are back into the Rift. Thank you for being patient with us and getting through the pauses. So he's not going to be a lethality Axiom Arc Nocturne, right? We've got the tanks. Similar thought process for Why Not as well, right? Divine Sunder wants a bit of extra HP in the build. It's about surviving and persevering. Nocturnal comes out.
Well, they found themselves a pick. They certainly have got themselves a kill in sight. Benvi just a little bit too over-eager to try and push their advantage and claim some river pressure. And Direwolves will not waste their time. Decoy will clutch heal and a summoner heal.
Yeah, had to use the summoner heal there. That was actually quite close.
Wow.
It's a level 11 or 2 points in the Caitlyn ult. That does mean the second Drake, the second Ocean in a row here goes towards the Direwolves. Still in control overall. I think the biggest thing has been using Zoranus. The Liv not able to get into the mix. The last time that he was, they were able to get some kills. But Zoranus has always been here faster and first.
Yeah, and I think that's the big divide between the two right now, that Zoranus has been a very active member of the squad, trying to group up to force those fights, whereas Liv is single-handedly taking down top and bot out of turrets. So he's got a different game plan in mind here. Building like an absolute weapon to be a tank with a stone plate and the frozen gauntlet, but not always there to utilize it so far. And I guess a big component of that would be the fact that there's a massive divide between these two AD carries, right? 5 and 1 is Dilution, whereas you've got a 0 and 1 Caitlyn, still very much lagging behind.
I think the biggest thing here as well, though, is the 3-1-3, 260 creep score rise. Chaz definitely going crazy, keeping up with Praetus in terms of gold, and that's a shutdown bounty on the Lucian with a 5-1 scoreline. Daystar throws the claw, says psych. We're not actually going for that one, but tries to keep Chaz humble. Baron, at least River on the cards here. Poltron doesn't clear the pit for no apparent reason. Perhaps assumed that Decoy would place a control ward in the pit, but if your goal is to bait the Baron, you need to clear the Baron pit, or you will not be able to bait the Baron. It's science.
There's nothing more heartbreaking than baiting on vision.
And not knowing.
Yeah.
Your opponents just smile. And look at these idiots.
Look at these idiots. What are they doing?
Muppets.
Wave to the camera. Hi, Mum. Yeah, certainly a very unfortunate circumstance. And right now, it does really feel like a case of who makes the first move here?
Well,
we really are just waiting for waves to crash in mid.
They don't have a control ward to place in the pit, so someone should probably just be resetting to place that if that's your goal here. But look at Team Bliss.
Look at Daystar.
They're threatening for the mid lane outer turret, and Praetor.
Oh, Praetor's just dead. That is beautiful work there from Bliss. Picture perfect, coming from every single angle. And just breaking the deadlock.
And just knowing where Direwolves are. They're not hitting the Baron. There's no pressure there. They have vision control everywhere but inside the pit where they couldn't clear one ward. And now look at Bliss. They find their pick. They find the Mark Lewis effect. Teleport's going to come through from Chaz. They know the Baron's being done. But straight into a Caitlyn trap for Decoy. Zoranus Mega though. There's an angle here. It's a Mega now with Flash.
This would be crazy there without their
juicy.
most fed member. Poltron untouched right now. Chaz locking in place. Liv, nice bubble to knock him up down to 50. Daystar's very low as well. I mean, I think Direwolves really do look at this one and say, we have a fair shot of this. Why not? She's gone. They now have no smite. Poltron's
It's
just going to
3k
flash.
health.
Thank you for the leash. This is unbelievable. It's a freebie. In they go. Yes. I thought for a second the Rockets may have stolen that one away, but no, Poltron far too experienced. Their own warp in. Daystar picked apart from the side, forcing out the Zonias. Liv trying to justify his way out of that one, but just falling victim to too much pressure. And how on earth have Direwolves pulled that one off?
And once again, Bliss at objectives just lose their minds, right? They make the decision to go for the Baron. They stick themselves in the pit, and they run the risk of being engaged on. But they just start falling victim to the pressure. They're steadily losing health. Their resistances are lower in the pit. Zonus is throwing houses at them. Poltron over the walls just throwing those Qs out, and Chaz is untouched and unstoppable. Why not gets left? Gets stuck in the pit. Doesn't walk with the rest of his team, so perhaps the comms weren't there, and they've left the Baron at 3k HP, and Team Bliss say, well, we contest this now. But they don't have their jungler, so contesting this is bad. And then they get picked off by the Rise ultimate because they've shown themselves contesting it. So it goes from bad to worse. And in a single moment, the capitulation of Bliss is evidenced once again at an objective.
It just completely unfolds in a very messy and ugly really way. It's not really the situation you want yourself to be found in.
Tidal wave.
We turn our attention back into a massive team fight once again. In jumps Poltron, surrounded by 5. The more Memorius, that shield did not last 1 second whatsoever. Zonus, oh, he's leaped out away. He's lived. Unbelievable body block there from the ace in the hole. Caitlyn will not be sniping away a freebie.
Zonus with the teleport here as well. So we'll be able to join the fray once again if another fight breaks out. Chaz has found himself 3 members looking at him, but he's so tanky.
Too quick. With the Ceres and with the phase rush too. This guy is Tokyo drifting through this game right now. Having a perfect little fight here in the mid lane at 5-1-3. Incredibly fed. Nearly 300 CS before the 30-minute mark.
That was a fight Direwolves chose as well, and I would say very successfully had. I don't think Poltron was ready for the flash over the wall. I don't think he was ready to actually join Team Bliss, but he found 5 members staring at him. So he does go down, but that's executed on the end of that play by Direwolves to try and recoup what was a very difficult starting position of the fight, but they navigate it. Zonus surviving means that he had the luxury of teleporting back in and securing the inner turret as well. And he's gotten past the point where Liv just 1v9s him, but here they go.
Yep, he's gone all out onto Zoranus. Their own warp is being teased at as it comes on through, and Liv just says, how has this happened? Zoranus should be dead on my screen, but he's got boys to back him up. The lights go out, and a tower then falls right on down. That's an inhibitor exposed with a Baron buff there to empower the cannons.
Chaz!
There's Chaz once more. The exhaust is utilised, but it's not enough to stop the pain and pressure. Oh! The Gale falls in to try and get the execute, but Daystar survives. Straight back to the fountain. They're just going to veer the head now into mid lane, which Poltron's been prepping. Baron buff's gone, but that might be a second inhib as well.
The Sandra Wukong no ultimate's going to be there to keep them up if a fight were to happen. Direwolves just able to rampage through the base. They'll take themselves 2 inhibitors pretty much uncontested, try as Bliss might. And Lived, unfortunately, thought he had a play, but he ulted in a Mega Gnar who just turns and burns. Stands and delivers that damage. And here he comes again.
Oh, here we go, Zoranus. That's a little bit cute right there. A pounce flash, knockback there onto Benvi. Where are you going?
They have truly made this Heimerdinger pick useless.
Yeah.
Very well done by Direwolves, and a big target on Benvi's head. Recall is going to be confirmed here, though very close. He scraped a couple of hairs off his chest. But he gets out with his life.
It's an 8k gold lead now, Rusty. 3 back-to-back Ocean Drakes. Certainly one of my favorites if we're not talking Infernals. If you pick these all up subsequently, you just have infinite sustain.
Dai was looking very good, just overall, right? Day 2, the LCO, the second game we've seen of them. Commanding in their first game. But it was also a pretty big draft difference in their first game. So we look at this one, and I think a very coherent draft overall from Dai was just their 5 champions in a vacuum, right? Good damage mix, good scaling, good movements around the map. A little bit reliant on some early snowballing, but at the same time, Gnar Rise scaling is really good.
Yeah.
So they've kind of got top to toe as a team composition works.
This is nice. They're trying to prey on the idea that Poltron might get a little bit over-eager to try and find a ganking angle, but he doesn't fall victim to that when the lights go out, and then we go for a team fight. Teleport's coming in thick and fast. In goes the Nocturne, looking for the kill. All out being poised by Liv as Poltron flashes across the wall, followed by the Cyclone, taken out of the mix nice and early. But it is still the Direwolves coming out on top, still looking for more, still sieging successfully, and 2 waves crashing because they have super minions.
Yeah, they have to defend the base, which means the Direwolves still have ball in their court to play aggressively. Still a 2-for-2 trade overall, and in a losing situation, that's the type of thing that you will take, but 3 shutdowns on the Direwolf side, and Bliss found none of them, as they only found the Nocturne and the Nami. And they still get to push forwards, threatening a 3rd inhibitor turret at the very least. The squad's back from Bliss, but can they stop this?
I certainly hope so. They want to deny the trifecta. Their base is really crumbling around them, and they are forced to start the turtle. Oh, that is really holding on by a hair's breadth. Their Nexus is beginning to be threatened by the insurmountable pressure of the game alone.
And so we sit ourselves at a 9,000 gold difference with an Ocean Soul up in 1 minute and 20 seconds. Kratos shows himself there for just a moment, but the Rise ult comes through.
That's clever. In they jump once again. Looking for the pick.
Poltron, no, he ulted the clone. It's a good idea, just unfortunately they weren't able to find what they were after this time, so the reset will still be there. Remember, minute till the Soul, Baron already up and available, so if it doesn't happen, it doesn't matter. And pray to, I mean, how many times is this going to happen?
And you know what we're missing is you switched the Nara for a GP, and this is very Chiefs-esque of last year, isn't it? You think of that game they played, I think it was up against Order from memory.
Yeah, yeah.
And they just absolutely took you down, and that's exactly what Bliss are hoping to do right now. They want Chaz, he's got a 600 gold bounty, and that's been taken by Lemus. You love to see it. Bubble goes out, doesn't connect, stopwatch is fantastic, and a Baron is on the menu.
It can't be though, because Why Not has 1 HP and Daystar has to go back to base. Look at Direwolves. Straight away, no hesitation. Benvi mispositioned, the rest of his team's looking to base. Decoy found himself a Lissandra.
That is the most aggressive Nami you've ever seen in your life right there. Survives! He's done his job. He's made a Team Bliss back into the action. They wanted to run away. They wanted to reset. They wanted to go back to their base.
Teleport's going to go to the Nexus here as well.
Oh,
Nocturne ults through, but I don't think this matters.
That's
I think
disgusting.
he's just stopping him while Zoranus ends.
The blue trinkets go out and it says, where are you hiding? You just cannot. The respawn times at this time are 40 seconds, Rusty. You just cannot watch the pain and punishment inside your base right now. Liv is going to try and delay the inevitable, but it is a ticking time bomb. This is a GG. It's an ace. And it is a 34-minute victory to make Direwolves go 2-0.
Definitely the longest game that we've had so far on the LCO, but still clean cut and controlled by the Direwolves in reality. We've seen moments, again, glimpses into the mind of Bliss and where they could be as a team, but still not on the same page enough to find those wins against the higher caliber of opponent. A big miss for the Bliss side that they'll be looking at is their support jungle. You know, the members of the team that are getting vision, that are getting the wards down, they were the ones constantly dying to the Nocturne composition.
Yeah.
Direwolves just looked clean.
So it did look clean. And I guess the experiment as to why we maybe don't see Caitlyn Heimerdinger as much was maybe demonstrated there, Mac.
Very true. And the thing that I just want to quickly let everyone in on is about 3 minutes ago, we were sitting in the green room. Kitty says to me, because I was saying, oh, look, this bounties, there is a chance Bliss can come back here. And she's like, I don't actually see a world where Chaz dies here, though. And then that's when Why Not jumped on Chaz. Chaz died. So, look, Chaz, KD, got slightly ruined by a bit of backstage caster curse. But other than that, great game to witness. You know, Team Bliss keeping it real close for those early games. Couple of just mispositionings here and there, and all of a sudden, Direwolves just take that to a bigger lead.
It was a relatively slow start to the game where I believe it was 2-3 at the very beginning, but when it came to these dragon fights, we just saw Team Dials there straight away and Chaz being there as the extra member where we were really missing Daystar until those later fights. But of course, this Lissandra did manage to pick up a lot of gold and she became the main carry of Team Bliss. But this Caitlyn, although she was pushing in the Heimerdinger the entire game, I just felt like she was missing in those team fights. We didn't see the impact that we wanted to see of a Caitlyn, and I see this new build from Limas, and I know Gala built the same thing where you go BT up against Lucian and Nami, but I feel like if you have a Wukong and Cassandra and your other AP damage is the Lissandra, then you're not providing too much damage as an AD carry. And of course, something else that was interesting is that Benvi decided to opt into the Leandres instead of, I believe, Rylai's. And that's a choice, definitely a choice. It's not seen very often from my end, but maybe it is better in this case. This Baron was really tragic, a lot of miscommunication from Team Bliss, and overall, it just put Rise up in the scaling game.
Yeah, there were so many moments where you could see that just like chemistry is something that they're slowly and surely working on, and Direwolves just punished him every time they sort of put a foot wrong in any direction. Daystar, a better game today, but at the same time, he just got outplayed by Chaz, out-rotated by Chaz, and it felt like maybe, you know, going back to that miscommunication, that Team Bliss, they're still working on trying to get on that same page. 11k gold gap at the end, and you can see Chaz, Praedyth, both pumping up the numbers, 22,000 damage done each.
I do like the idea of Rise and Nocturne being paired together. Nocturne has been an anticipated pick with the Axiom Arc coming in. Although not built this game, it could have been a potential. But with this idea of the Rise and Nocturne, you play for the Rise where you constantly hover with that ultimate. If you ever do go in, you also have the Realm Warp to TP to the other side of the map, just in case there's another major objective being played there. But yeah, really interesting comp from Dials and cleanly executed, although very long game.
Speaking of clean,
Very long game.
Speaking of clean, Skimmy, Kitty, both now keeping their predictions pretty clean as well.
Yeah.
So
Time to go for the underdogs every time. That's
unlucky
what we say,
for us.
right?
Yeah, we're on the back foot. I've got 2 losses already. Absolutely crazy. Someone that has no losses yet is Praedyth. He's here to tell us exactly how to do it. Mr. Praedyth, Mr. Mark Lewis, how are you feeling already? 2023, you're off to a cracker of a start. Is it good to have the Backstreet Boys back together again?
Yeah, it's like playing with Jesse and Danny is like it feels at home, you know. And it's only like we've only screened for like 2 weeks, been playing for a week, so I know it's gonna be a really fun year. So yeah, I'm really excited to play for this team.
Definitely saw some smiles from those player cams, but let's talk about the comp that you guys ran for today. So Lucian 2 days in a row, huh? I see that this Lucian pick is very high prior for a lot of these OCE teams. So please, what made you, or what really were your thoughts when the Lucian got let through once again by Team Bliss?
I think Lucian is like you can definitely play against it, but I think we like no team is good enough yet to play against it, because like as you can see in at least our games and like the Penn game today, you saw that when the Lucian got ahead, it's just like impossible to stop him. So like you need to make sure you're picking like a winning bot lane into it, and you need to make sure it's like sitting under the tower the whole game, and that like you have like a good mid matchup so you don't die. Because as soon as you die, it's just really hard to get back into the game.
Yeah.
I don't really believe in Caitlyn Harmoninger, but maybe they can show us in playoffs or something.
Okay. Now, what was going through, because we heard your voice comms yesterday were a little bit chaotic. Today, what was actually happening when you managed to get that first Baron steal? Bliss looked a little lost. You guys completely punished him. I think you might have died just before it, but the rest of the boys picked it up. So what was going on in the voice comms when that managed to go your favor?
I think, so I died on midwave, actually. So this is probably the part of the game where we have the most experience, is when I'm dying on midwave and then they start Nash. So everyone was actually like super calm and knew exactly like what to do, and we performed perfectly. And I think yesterday, like our voice comms are just so bad, like I was getting a headache. But I think like this team is not very good, so I think as long as we like play properly, we're gonna come out ahead. So I just like tell everyone to calm down, and yeah.
I definitely saw some flashbacks when you died on that mid-wave, back to 2022 and 2021. But, you know, consistency is key, and it wouldn't be you without that little bit of a cameo. So congratulations on going 2-0 for week 1, and we'll see you next week, Praedyth.
Thank you.
Always good to hear from him. And it's great to hear that It was all part of the plan. Him dying in mid again, the El Clasico, everyone knew, all right, it's all uphill from here.
Let the record show that killing Mark Lewis in mid lane is now a buff to the rest of his team, and you probably let him live.
Yeah.
is what he's trying
The
to say
mental
there.
gymnastics
Yeah.
in that
He just owns
sentence.
it. It's on brand
So
now.
we go past him towards the rest of the team now. That's the new strat.
Certainly is. Now, Kitty and I started to talk about this back in the green room. Dare MVP discussion time. I was feeling Chaz. I also threw Decoy's name in the mix because he had some ridiculously high KP, as well as getting one of those kills towards the end. What are you guys' thoughts?
Chaz.
Chaz?
Yeah, Chaz as well.
Oh, super easy. Kitty, is that okay?
Chaz it up. Chaz it up.
Chaz it up. Chaz it up. Thanks, Chaz. Congrats.
Where is
That's
he?
back-to-back Dare
It's right
MVPs
there.
for this week.
Carter.
Doing a whole bunch of work there in the mid lane. 6, 2, and 4. Rusty, keep those eyes on, all right? We need you for the rest of the
My
show.
bad, my
45% KP. Decent amount of damage, but of course, impact was out the wazoo. He was always in the right place at the right time, except for maybe one time towards the end. But then he had the rest of the boys there to clean up anyway.
Yep. Look, going back to where I cast a curse Chaz in his one death at the very end of the game, they did manage to, well, he managed to burn all the summoner spells and all the abilities from Team Bliss, which was an overall dub for Dials, and they just won the fight because they had nothing left.
What are you doing?
I was joking. I was going to pretend I had nothing left, but I do have things left.
Okay.
Yeah.
Play of the day.
I wasn't going to leave
It was
you
play
hanging.
of the day. So you don't even need me anymore. Play of the day time. What do you think it was?
Wait, I'm gonna reenact it. I'm gonna reenact
Okay,
it.
all right.
Oh? Oh?
Huh?
Wait. Here.
What?
This is going well.
Oh, I'm
This is-
intrigued.
Oh, the Kisei Akali.